It's Alan Elandi. It's got to be more careful.
We are back, 8121 Talk, Season 4, Episode 1. We took a break because we was doing the
NFL talk?
but they out of here.
Yeah.
They out of here.
It's over.
San Francisco 49ers dropped the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City has a third ring.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we off that. We are back with our regular talk. How you doing, miss?
I'm good. How you?
I'm all right.
You
I'm
sure?
all right. I'm all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we have so much stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we started off here.
Okay.
Season
4.
Episode
1.
And we back. As we go through our daily lives, there's a subject that usually comes up. Right?
Okay.
And what is that subject?
Kids.
Kids. What about them kids?
Sorry.
Oh, shit.
I'm all the way live.
Right.
Kids, like,
you got to turn that phone off. But anyway, keep it moving, baby. Keep it moving.
Priority. You know what's crazy about this is this is the first time this phone has did this. Never mind.
Did this.
Yeah, that.
During.
Yeah.
Or you saying the first time it's done this today?
Right, because it's been buzzing all day and now, anyway.
Okay,
yeah. So how do you prioritize kids?
How do you prioritize kids? So that's our subject matter.
Should kids be a priority in a marriage?
In a marriage.
Over the spouse.
Now break that down for me.
Over the spouse.
Should kids be a priority in the marriage over your spouse?
Yes.
Let me clarify this before we go any further. Anybody else is listening, right? Are we talking about prioritizing kids over boyfriends?
No.
Just spouses. So we staying in that lane.
Yes.
Just spouse. So when you say prioritize kids over spouse, should we do that?
Should we?
Kick it.
I say no.
You shouldn't prioritize your kids over your spouse.
Right. Does that sound harsh?
Somewhat. But
it sounds like a bad parent?
I need to hear more from you.
Okay, so you're a couple, right?
Right.
You got married before you had kids.
Uh-huh.
Or you got married while she was pregnant. Whatever.
Okay.
The kids come into the relationship, but you have to remember that at the end of the day, it's a partnership between you and your spouse, and you can't neglect your spouse and put your children first.
Now, let me go back and let me clear this up. So the person that you are married to, the kids are theirs also, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're by 2 biological parents.
2 biological parents. So does this, what we get ready to jump into, does this apply to a parent that marries someone, but the kids are not theirs?
Sort of, kind of, but it's a little different.
All right. Now let me throw my thing in here.
Okay.
Kids go. They grow up and they leave.
Yes. Well, sometimes.
Sometimes, but in the natural order of things, kids, grow up and leave. They get spouses themselves. They have kids and they do what they do. But on the flip side, spouses leave too.
Yeah, some spouses do.
So for me, it's a balance. And we talked about this the other day.
Right, it has to be a balance.
I know that people know that we be testing these conversations out before we get on the mic, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it has to be a balance. It's like if you show one side, say side A is a kid, side B is a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
If you show one side more attention than the other, you're endangering maybe some bad communication. And
Okay.
people could feel a certain way.
Right.
So yeah. You okay? I look like you in thought over there.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to think of how to say this, but you can't neglect one or the other.
So how do you do it? I say balance, but what do you say?
I think you have to schedule time. Does that make sense?
Schedule?
I mean,
You gonna be
I don't even
scheduling?
know. You have family time, right?
Right.
It's you, your spouse, and your children.
Right.
Y'all do things
Right.
together.
Right.
But you still have to have time as a couple away from the kids sometime. And you can't make it all about the kids and make your spouse feel unwanted, neglected, unappreciated, anything like that, because you can't even have a healthy relationship in the household with the kids if one of the other parent feels like they don't matter.
Right. Right.
Because it takes the both of you to raise those children. And you can't make the kids feel, you can't let your kids think that they are, I don't even know how to explain this. Not that they're not a priority, because of course your kids are a priority because you decide to have them, you bring them in here, you're responsible for them. But you can't neglect the person that you decide to have those children with.
I get it. Because me personally, using from my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of my son's mothers would, whenever we would argue, she would say that I care more about that child
Mm-hmm.
than her. But my thought process at the time was the child needs more attention than you.
Mm-hmm.
It get tricky right here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends because
yeah.
Oh man.
The child needs more attention. So of course I'm gonna hold their hand when they walk across the street, or pick them up, or be, baby stuff with them, and maybe play video games. But me personally, I didn't understand why she was like, "Oh, you care more about your child than you do about me." I thought that was selfish.
Well, I think that is selfish and a little insecurity and everything, but then sometimes you have to pay attention when someone says that, and then think about, okay, what am I doing that would make this person think that?
Personally,
yeah,
we're keeping it real this season.
Yeah,
right?
Keeping it real.
Everything they wasn't doing.
So sometimes it's warranted and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Because you got these people, women mostly, well, I'm not going to say that. You got some parents that when the child is born, it's all about that child. If the child sniffle, they right there.
Right.
They don't want the other parent to have anything to do with the child. They want to do everything themselves. All that.
Right.
So what then? Is that right?
It's weird. It's weird, right? Because a second ago, I said everything that they weren't doing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if your kids go through these phases where they want to play games, right? Now, I might not be at that point in my life. I'm not a game player, but I show some interest in it.
Right.
But if you got two parents in the house and one is like always not caring or involved, I ain't got no time for no games. So in my situation, I'm picking up the interest and the slack and the close to me time.
Right.
Right. So I guess I'm basically saying it depends on who the person is.
It does depend on the person
what's in there. But in a general perspective, like you were talking about, you're saying that you can't show one side more attention than the other. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
But you're also saying that, are you saying kids leave?
Yeah, kids do leave.
So are you saying you pay more attention to your spouse?
I'm not saying that you pay more attention. Like you said, it has to be a balance. But you have to still nurture that relationship with your spouse, still have quality time with your spouse, still make your spouse feel like they are your partner, that they are equal, and not fall down to the side, to the bottom. Like, okay, now that I got this child, I don't really need you.
Well, that's a sick relationship.
It is, but it happens.
It happens. See, I can, like I said earlier, I'm alluding to it and I'm saying it. I can only go on what I know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know that I saw there was some holes, so
Mm-hmm.
I had to turn the volume up more
Yeah.
on one
And
side.
sometimes that happens.
So I got that. Oh,
Right.
you care more about, okay,
Right.
boom.
But
you get what I'm saying?
yeah, but you can't neglect the child either, because I've read books, I've heard stories where the parents were still all about themselves, and it was like the children didn't exist, where they send them off to boarding school, or they're always gone, they're staying at friends' houses, or or grandparents' houses, or somebody else's house, and the parents never spent any time with the kids. The only thing they're concerned about is themselves.
So
doing things together, they never include the kids. It's like they don't even know who their children are. Now that is wrong. Now that's too much. You're spending too much time on each other, and you forgot about these children that you brought into the world.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, I hate to quote the Bible, but, well, I don't hate to quote it, but oh Lord, let me not say that, because people be like, she don't want to quote the Bible.
Right. Say what you gotta say.
Anyway, so the Bible says that you leave your mother and your father and you cleave, right, to your spouse. I'm paraphrasing. So you cleave. You are a unit with the other person. And then when you bring kids into that unit, you carve out time for those kids, but you cannot prioritize those kids over your spouse.
The way I've always looked at it is, though you're a parent, you still have a life.
Exactly.
Yeah. You still have a life, and you still want to do things. You're not in the box yet.
Right? Yeah.
So you have to keep that. The more I feel good about myself and what I endeavor in, the better I can be to you.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying.
And then you got to show your children a healthy relationship, what it looks like. You have to show them what a healthy relationship looks like.
I failed at that. I failed.
Well, I mean,
I dropped the ball. I ain't even gonna get on this mic and hold you. I dropped the ball because in those situations where there's a child and there's a spouse, right? And there's a fiery situation, you know what's right, but sometimes knowing what's right and actually doing what's right is two different things.
Oh, we know.
Right.
Because my first marriage wasn't healthy.
Yeah. So I mean, not getting off the subject or anything. I think that it's got to be like a balance. Yeah,
definitely a balance with like everything else in life,
and
right?
There's also got to be, my opinion, and I'm going to let you say, what you thinking, but there also has to be communication. Oh, yeah. It's got to be communication.
Not only communication, it has to be comprehension.
Well, let's stay on the communication right now, because, there were points in my personal life where I had to get up on a Saturday morning and say, hey, I'm going here, here, and here with the child. I'll be back later, then we can run to Palisades Mall, which was in Nyack, New York. We go up there, blah, 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 blah. But I had to communicate that. So imagine if I walked out of the house before the spouse woke up. I didn't say anything.
Right.
And then they wake up. I'm not there. The child is not there. And then I come back 3-4 o'clock in the evening. That thing been festering on their mind. Like, oh, he just got up. He ain't take me. So communication is key.
Definitely.
Have to let somebody know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because sometimes you have to replenish the child. Just like you have to replenish your spouse. How do you see what I'm saying? Like, in other words, I'm asking you how. How do you do it? Communication?
Communication, definitely communication. But I guess you go back to what I said about scheduling. You said, do you schedule time? But you do. Like, I used to have mommy and me days with the children. individually.
Okay.
But then me and the ex used to have date night.
Right.
Or, a weekend where we would get away by ourselves without the children.
Right.
So you just have to balance it out. It's not easy.
That was your arm just popped?
My wrist just popped.
Ooh,
it hurt too.
Lot of mercy.
That's what happens when you turn 56.
So you schedule. Oh yeah, we just had birthdays.
Birthdays.
Yeah.
Woo, woo. Give
So
a round of applause for birthdays.
So basically, you're saying, I'll get back after that. So you're basically saying that you have to schedule.
Yeah, you have to.
I want to
be deliberate in.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Okay.
You ever heard somebody say you make plans and God laughs?
Oh yeah, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah, tell him your plans. Okay, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can make plans and you can say, okay, Saturday we're going to do this, this. It don't always quite work like that.
It don't.
A sick child, a child that's going through something, you need to.
It don't.
It don't work like that. I agree with what you're saying, but I think the plans work after we've established who we are and what we're doing here.
Right.
Big mistake I made.
Right. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. You have to, man, if you could go back, I know some people be like, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have a child with this person. You have to be deliberate. I know there's a lot of unplanned pregnancies, and even when you get married and you talk about having children somewhere down the road, but then the child comes sooner than you thought it was going to come.
Be more careful.
And you're not ready, and you really haven't even discussed what are your child rearing ideas and
I don't think,
everything.
Not too many people actually do that.
Not too many people do.
What's your, you know what? And I said this season I'm gonna be a little bit more open.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give a scenario out there for listeners, and I'm giving one for you, and I want your response.
Okay.
Scenario.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about a scenario, me and a past spouse. We weren't married, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what would happen if our child went to jail?
Mm-hmm.
And they looked me dead in the face and said, I'm not going to visit them because if they go there, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
I felt some type of way about that.
Right.
How could you have that mentality?
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying I would go to prison and be like, he didn't do anything. We talk about that.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I can't leave him hanging. It's not in my DNA. It's not. It's not in the core of who I am.
Right.
But how do you ask that question to that spouse before y'all have a child?
I don't know. Nobody thinks about that, but you should at least discuss. Just like when you sit down, well, you're supposed to. When you sit down and you meet a person, and you're thinking about spending a lifetime with them, you sit down and you ask them, okay, well, what you think about this? Or blah, blah, blah. You need to do that with children too. I think that if more people would discuss how they feel about raising children and the way they want to raise them, maybe it will work out a little bit better.
Just maybe. But it's interesting. Our subject matter is, what's the subject matter again?
Should the kids be prioritized over the spouse?
Right, but look where it's taking us.
I know.
We're examining both sides of it, but we're more, well, I am at least, I'm examining the spouse more.
Yeah.
In my experience. In order for it to work, they have to understand that. Like, we can sit back and be general and philosophical and everything, but if you married to somebody, you dating somebody, and they just a jealous motherfucker, it is what it is.
No.
I'm sorry. They came out. You understand what I mean?
I got it.
Or they just funny style. Like, some people are just funny style.
Some people are.
And you'll find yourself, how they say it? You going up the creek without a paddle? What? Because you're battling. And even if you're trying to say, I'm not prioritizing this one over that one, I'm just trying to keep everybody happy.
Right.
That's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, that does get tricky when you're trying to keep everybody happy, because guess what?
What?
Somebody's not going to be happy.
All the time.
Somebody's not going to be happy.
And guess what's going to come out the back end?
Mm.
You care about that one more than you care about me.
That's so crazy though.
Yeah.
But you got to work together. Like you said, communication. You got to communicate. You got to say, hey, we love each other. We want to spend time with each other, but we got these kids and we got to do certain things with these kids and we got to make sure they're taken care of and everything, but we got to carve out time for us too.
Now,
and then be honest about it with each other and say, if it seems like I'm letting the kids take over, then you need to tell me, hey, you're getting a little too far now. You're letting these kids run your day, playing your life and everything.
But you know what? I'm sorry. I'm raising my hand right now because I want to jump in right there. But see, a good partner will see that and take the load off you. Not just sit back and tell you, hey, you're doing too much with these kids.
Right. But I'm just saying, but you got to communicate. You can't sit there and fester in it, like you said, and be sitting back thinking to yourself, well, all she care about is these kids, and she doing this and she doing that. She don't even make my plate anymore, or she don't even say goodbye to me in the morning. Or
we don't watch Breaking Bad no more.
We don't watch Breaking Bad no more. All that stuff. So you got to talk about it. So that person, you got to be able to go to the person and say, hey, I'm feeling a little left out here. That makes sense? Yes,
it makes a whole lot of sense. But
I mean, experts say that you should.
That's what experts say. And that's what books say. And in a utopia.
Yeah, but
it don't work like that. But before we end this, the bottom line is you saying you should or you should not prioritize kids over your spouse. What are you saying?
Should not.
You should not prioritize kids over your spouse.
Right.
But here's the flip side. Should you prioritize your spouse over your kids?
Your spouse.
Tricky.
It sounds so bad when you say, yes, my spouse is my number one priority, but I'm not saying that they're your number one priority, but you cannot leave them out, because you have to remember that when you have a problem, who are you going to turn to help you work that problem out? Your spouse.
Well,
if you're not giving no time to your spouse because it's all about those kids, then that spouse ain't going to have your back.
Well,
that makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to end on this.
Okay.
If you pull out your phone right now and I want you to look up the word agape. You know about the churches, agape. So I'll speak while you are looking that definition up, because I want to close the show with a little bit of what I had learned from somebody a while back. Yeah. What you got there? The definition for agape.
Well, it depends on how we want to use it.
Well, just run them.
So we got agape, and it says Christian love, especially as distinct from erotic love or emotional affection.
I'll take that right there.
Okay.
I'll take that right there and I'll run with it, unless you have another one you want to read.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Agape love, the way I was taught when I was, doing my little studies and searching for wisdom, I fell short. But, when I was doing that. So the love you have for your parents is not the same as the love you have for your sister. The love you have for your sister is not the same as the love you have for your spouse. They are love, right? The love you have for your spouse is not the same as the love you have for your kids.
True.
It's different types of love, and a human being needs different types of love.
True.
The kids provide one, and the spouse provides another. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
And those things need to be readily available for you to function.
Yes.
Right. Want to add anything to that?
No, that's good.
Are you serious? I get to finish it?
Yeah. Don't do me like that.
What
Don't
am I
do me
doing?
like
What am I
that.
doing right now?
Whatever. I don't care what you're doing. You put them shoulders and your hands down.
But I'm just saying, you know,
Mhm.
that's the way I try to look at it.
Mhm.
Some people have that crossed up. They think love is just love.
Right.
Because see, at the top of that, I didn't touch it because I didn't want to offend, but let's go there.
Mhm.
Right? The love you have for God
Mhm.
is not the same love you have for your spouse.
It's not.
No, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Mhm.
And some people don't know how to categorize
Mhm.
certain things. Your kids need protection. They need to be taught certain things. What's a good word? Nurturing. You
Mhm.
used that a minute ago.
Mhm.
But your spouse don't necessarily need nurturing. Not really.
Right.
Right. So it's a different, and your love for them is because of your nurturing. You know, when you protect, that's a different type of love.
Mhm.
You mentioned in your definition erotic. Can't get that from your kids. You get that from your spouse.
Right.
Yeah. So it's different. I think that when you are dealing with a spouse that's not right,
Mhm.
it's easy for them to go, "Oh, you care more about." I'm not giving them the same type of love I'm giving you.
Right. Yeah.
And the attention I give you is different.
Right.
You know what? I'm not going to get off this podcast. I need more from you. You got more to say. You
I
got
don't
more to
have
say.
more. I don't understand what I had to say.
Give me one more line before we get out of here. One more. So I give you a scenario. There's a husband that's upset because he says you spend too much time with your child, right?
Mhm.
You always available for them.
Mhm.
Please think about what I'm saying. You're always available
Right.
for them.
Mhm.
How do you handle that?
But then I would ask him, but aren't I always available for you too?
Well, if he's saying that, then maybe he doesn't feel that way.
Mm.
So is that the right thing to ask?
Yeah, it's still the right thing to ask. Maybe the
Okay.
way you ask it.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you not saying prioritize one over the other, but one is going to be there for a longer stretch.
You hope so.
In
Yeah.
in a utopia, your spouse is going to be there until the day you jump in the box.
Mhm.
So you're saying what I'm saying, it's got to be a balance.
It has to be a balance.
Are you saying communication like me? You have to let somebody know.
Yeah, you have to communicate.
This is what I'm doing.
And I'm not saying neglect those kids. Don't neglect them.
That would never happen.
Don't neglect them.
But what are you saying?
But don't neglect your spouse either.
That's it. That's it. 8121 Talk. I almost said NFL. But 8121 Talk season
4, episode 1.
Episode 1. And we came on with, hey, let's talk about priorities in a relationship between children and the spouses.
Mhm.
Right? And I might have let one fly in there.
Mhm.
We work on that.
Okay.
It's Alan Milandi. You got to be more careful.